Boom, we're live. Welcome back to another episode. And today I'm joined by Itamar. Itamar, how are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, man. It's great to be here. You said you're calling in from New York at the moment.
Yeah, I guess that is better weather than what you're feeling now in the UK. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I said before this, I feel like I'm currently in a sauna. And it's been a challenging day, but we'll get through it. And thank God it's dropping tomorrow. But I'm really excited because this is a topic that comes up in our area. So for the AI Journal, we obviously talk and look across various different aspects from the data science angle, data development, through to all sorts of topics like VR and cloud and fintech and all other angles. But I'm really excited to talk around this because it's quite an important area. But before I jump into questions around, I've got and we're having a quick chat before. There's things I want to elaborate on, like ELT pipelines, and I'm really excited because, as I said, I get to selfishly learn from some of the best, including yourself, Itamar. But maybe just for myself and for anyone joining us, maybe give a bit of background of how you got into all of this, how it led you to Rivery, and what was your story? Because I always love to know, was it by chance? Was it by fluke? Was it something you always wanted to go into? Because me being an AI journal, I'm always fully transparent, complete chance that I fell into it and complete chance I fell into this world of AI through engineering. But would love to know your story, Tamar.
Yeah. So my connection to the data engineering basically started in over 20 years ago. When I studied in the new university, I started to work in a BI company and built a lot of projects around data. Later on, I built my own company, became to be one of the market leader, both in Israel, but actually in EMEA. We brought amazing technologies to Israel, tools like in the early days of Snowflake and Tableau and those kind of things. We run the business. It's still growing. It's still there, Vision BI. But a few years later, I decided to basically relocate all my experience to the globe, and then I moved to New York and built my second company, which basically was the same in the beginning, but eventually the US practice grew much faster. Over 170 engineers and data scientists in North America. We launched like several offices here with the headquarters in New York. Built partnership with like partner of the year in the world for Alteryx, for example, and Tableau, and grew a lot the business. And this is actually what brought me to Rivery. It's 2 years ago. We started to build the technology. I think it was 2018. We started to work with some customers, still under the previous company as a bootstrap. Aviv and Alon, my co-founders, they came with the idea to build Rivery, basically to simplify and make the ETL piece more self-service, basically to the the big mission is democratize data. But if you speak about machine learning, to make them independent, not only when related to data models, but also related to the data pipeline and building all the stack there. So after a good success with several customers, 2018 and 19, both in the US and in Israel, I decided to spin off Rivery, the technology, and build actually Rivery. We raised the seed round in December 2019. From that point, we grew a lot. So now we are over 90 employees, based in 3 offices, Tel Aviv, London, and New York. And what we're trying to do is everything that I did in 20 years, like building data platform, and now build it an experience of SaaS, like self-service, SaaS, hyper growth and scale, and basically remove all the barriers when you want to build state of art in data platform. So I call it the moving from service to SaaS.
I like that. That's a good word. And does that mean I'm going to get to meet you in London then if you got an office over here?
Absolutely. I'm coming quite a lot to London. I'll be there in September and in October, and I guess that's also in November and December. Yeah, absolutely.
you're just going to stay here for a prolonged period of time. Just keep here, and so it's a great place to be. But it's that's very cool to see that transition. And I think I'd like to know as well, like, how have you seen it through the recent years? Obviously, starting this in 2019, have you seen any kind of big shifts or maybe surprises or things that you saw happen through this time that really not challenge you, but you just really didn't expect, or things that didn't happen?
Yes, actually, I didn't believe that it will be such a big hype around this topic.
Yeah.
But if you take sit back and take a look into the data as a whole, you see that the revolution actually started maybe 10, 15 years ago with the self-service tool when it comes to data visualization, data exploration with self-service tools like Looker, Tableau, Click, and ThoughtSpot, those players. And then 5 years later, you saw the move to cloud with still in the digital native business mainly. When companies wanted to move from the on-prem data warehouses into the cloud, into the SaaS, of course, Snowflake, BigQuery, AWS with the Redshift and Athena and Azure, of course. So we saw that as a second stages of the big revolution. And alongside to that, there are two areas that started to bridge the gap. It comes from the data science, like basically more and more like tools that providing the predefined algorithmics and those kind of tools to make it, again, to democratize this space. And in parallel to this revolution, the revolution of the core, how to feed the data platform and how to transform and make the transformation much easier. And this side is what we call the ELT. This is the terminology. We actually see it more as a data ops revolution, because it's not related to ELT only. What about reverse ETL, enrich the business applications? What about, ETL? It's not only batch processes, it's also streaming. What about database replications like CDC? So you started to see that this space growing more towards to the data ops way approach, which is how, in general, you are manage the movement of data, how you are in high level manage it and do it as a product. This is when everyone's speaking about data as product. It's supposed to be no longer service organization, BI team that providing reports. It's actually give the tools to the business users, the data scientists, analysts, and all of them, and empower them to make the right decision and takes their business into data-driven journey. So this is what I saw really dramatically in the past 2 years, and we grew a lot, hundreds of customers we have globally, both enterprises and digital natives. What I see now in the past few months, that you see more and more enterprises getting into the field. Until, let's say, 6 months ago, it was mainly the digital natives, the startup, the tech companies. Now we are starting to see more the enterprise moving towards Snowflake or Google or whatever, and they need the right tools, because you are buying Snowflake and then you have kind of Rolls Royce for the data platform, but with legacy tools, legacy ETL tools, basically they became to be the bottleneck in the process, bottleneck at scale, bottleneck in terms of the persona that can use them, low code, no code, heavy code. They are not ready for that one. And this is what we're trying to do, basically, to bridge this gap between the talents, technologies, and the data. This is what we see.
I like that point you made as well, about democratizing it as well. So I look at the same angle, Itamar, when I look at the media landscape, and I didn't realize it at first. It just seemed like the sensible option, like get people on and you get new ideas. So I always think this is a similar point to what you were saying. having that angle of thinking, well, how do I know this is right, or what do I know that's right? And I think that's a great point that I want to touch on in a minute with the skills gap and the talent shortages. But I really love that kind of mindset shift, right? Of thinking, well, if I was just a media outlet and I was just writing everything in-house, I lose all that value from people such as yourself and data scientists and the people that, I mean, we've had people from the heads of AI at BMW write for us to the head of the director of communications at SAP. I'm never going to know the things that they know and the applications they know. And similar to you, Itamar, I'm never going to know the applications that you have or because you're on the ground, you're in the trenches. And I think it's such an important point to have that, especially as you're saying, with arming the talent, right? To bring it back to your point of having it. And I'd love to know, do you see a certain role, as you're saying, you're seeing these shifts going forward? Do you think there's going to be more data scientists, more data developers, or do you think there's going to be a whole new role of, I don't know, like maybe there's some job titles out there that don't exist yet. Like they're just, I don't know.
I don't really know, but maybe it will be, I don't know, maybe data citizen or data ops role that basically people that knows how to get the data, transform it, and then running the machine learning. Of course, there are the biggest experts in machine learning. Not everyone, not every data scientist is a PhD, in math or physics, that they can take this one to the next level. So you will see those top talents, but majority of the audience that working with data tools or data technologies, I guess that we will see more combination of between data analysts that becoming to be more technical, similar to the engineers, or some engineers that out of the sudden understand the business. It's and end of the day, between the infrastructure that you built and the insight that you will get from it, this is basically the mission here, to take your organization to be really data driven, and there's no way that you will have it with the island that we will see today. I always saying that it's really weird, because everyone dealing with every organization, eventually, whether you are data analyst, you are data scientist, or you are data engineers, all of you dealing with the same data set. So,
it's the same problem essentially.
This is one of the biggest challenge today, because each one of these roles takes the data set into his space, the comfort zone, and working according to what he knows based on his practice. And what we want to do, what you want to see, is that the collaboration between these talents is actually will make the best. You will get the best benefit out of those amazing infrastructures that you can find out there now.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's made me think of a book. So I read this book called, I recommend anyone that's watching to read it. It's called How to Think Like a Rocket Scientist. It's a great book. Like, it's a fantastic book, and it develops, and like, there's a book called How Google Works, and you look at all these techniques, and they talk around this balloon technique of how people find a balloon, and they use like some sort of targeting thing, like where the balloon is. But without getting distracted, in this book, it talks around Google X, to your point, Itamar, and Google X is like this, like, not top level Area 51 secret, but it's like where they kind of develop new products, new services, new things at a very high level. And they said they couldn't get anything outside of R&D because they didn't, what you're getting to, they didn't have those right skill sets. They just had very, very savvy design engineers and very, very savvy machine learning engineers, or whoever it is in their team, I don't know, but very people that are very drilled in. They had no salespeople. They had no go-to-market people. And they were like, well, how the hell can I get this out of this production facility into the world? And it's what you're saying, why training development is so important, right?
It's all must work as a machine. The machine around data, it's something that all organizations must have. You saw it in the COVID, when the enterprise market, the financial services, with all of the new fintech that basically are data companies, if you think about that one. Cyber security, the hype of cyber security. I know a lot of them from Israel. Trust me, all of them are data companies. So I think that what we understand with these hypes of fintech, data, and cybersecurity, that once it comes to the enterprise, or when it comes to the real life or the real day-to-day work, it's, you cannot live in island. You need to see one machine that the teams can collaborate on top of that one. And this is big mission. It's really big mission, because we are coming from different approaches. I'm coming from the engineering. You came from the data science, and I didn't speak even the business vertical or the domain. So it's also adding more complexity. I think that the way to solve that one is actually, and the you know the bridge between talent, data, and technology, it's actually more depends on the managers. What we are missing a lot is that today, because this transition to new technologies and new task mode and everything, you started to see that the expert that came from the business and knows everything in the business, if they don't know to dive into the details in the technology, not necessarily they need to know the query, but in the architecture, what you are doing, then they committed to the business. Okay, we will have that one, and they don't understand why it takes longer. So you need a mix of business knowledge plus the technology in a level, maybe you're more expert in one area, but you really need to have the knowledge and read about that. If you didn't learn that at school, you need to read about that in order to bridge the gap, and make sure that you will get the best infrastructure at scale eventually.
I think so. And there's really good points as well. So I think it's Pixar. It is Pixar. Pixar do things called brain trusts, and they bring everyone in the company and stick HR with tech, with a machine learning, and with a senior animator, and they just say, go spend the day together. Like all the company gets a day off, and they say it's where some of the best ideas have come, because you really get an open kind of not you're right, you're wrong approach. It's just like, well, I don't understand anything around machine learning, I'm using an example, around animation or how long it takes to do a clip of a film or whatever, and they'd really grill into it. And because of that outside input, like you're saying, you get some of the best results, which I think is really important, because I've seen it with a customer that we work with, where they said that their technology was implemented in a company, and they had that company coming to them saying, we can really use your technology. And they're like, well, we've already implemented it in one of your departments. And they were so siloed and so big, but didn't even know they were using them. It's just like, that's crazy world, man. But it's how much have you seen Tel Aviv change quickly, like in terms of tech center? Because that's a tech hub, man. They're killing it with some of the new companies and startups that are coming out of there. Itamar, it's wild.
Yeah, I think it's in Tel Aviv specifically, people really willing to take the risk and launch. And they, we are working in a successful company, and you see the CEO. It's human being. It's like you, and then you believe that you can build the same company or similar company, or the maybe different product, but you can actually, it's doable. So people actually believing on entrepreneurships, and of course the fact that the economic situation last year, 2021, I'm not speaking now about 2022, we can speak about that later if you want, but 2021 and with the COVID, so you think about the Tel Aviv hub, it's actually our biggest challenge as a Israeli hub is to sell to globe. And out of a sudden, you can sell to everyone because no one is now traveling. The enterprise sellers that come into the bar and inviting everyone and is the king of the world and everything, those days are, over, I guess, because you can sell with the same product, not the same product, similar product, simpler implementation over the Zoom. So no borders, no travels or something like that. So I think this is what brought the big jump and the big hype on this space. The fact that we could grow, outside of the Israeli market, which is really tiny. If you're building a company, what you want to do is basically to take it abroad. Basically, if you're an Israeli company, it's like the Israeli singer. If you will, no matter how successful you are, if your song is in Hebrew, it's really limited to very few people to listen.
Getting out there into the wider market. That's a great way of using it. A great, great. Don't know if analogy, but great explanation. That's really cool, Itamar. So I want to know. You touched on ELT pipelines. What does ELT stand for? What is an ELT pipeline? You were mentioning it earlier. Maybe I missed it, but just
it's the in the past, we used to run in order to build your data warehouse or your data lake. We used to run what we called ETL: extract, transform, and load. What we are seeing in the past few years, since you have like really amazing technologies like Google BigQuery or like Snowflake or like Databricks, those kind of platform built to scale in transformation. So what happened is that in the past few years, and in my previous company, we started to work in this approach like 2010 when we did the first project with Greenplum and Vertica, because it's the same idea. You don't need the ETL, the ETL server to be the bottleneck. So instead of running all the transformation in the Informatica server or the Talent server, you want to extract load, EL, replicate the data as soon as possible, the fastest way, the most efficient way into your cloud hub or data warehouse hub. And from that point, the transformation push down and run on top of the Snowflake, running on top of the BigQuery and those kind of solution. And then what you get is the scale. You get the flexibility because there is really there's no dependent on the ETL developers all the time because the data is replicated to the Snowflake. And from that point, the data scientist can take that one and use it and make all the preparation that he needs by himself. He knows Python, he knows SQL. It's enough for him, Scala or whatever he choose. But then he can run on top of the Snowflake, and he doesn't need to have a DBA. He doesn't need to have IT to add more resources or computing or vacuum or things that happen, weird things that happening in databases. It's freeing you to do your job and get the mission done. So this is basically the ELT, and ELT is, in general, no one will buy ELT tool just to buy ELT. They are buying ELT in order to get their analytics capabilities and science capabilities in the data platform. So what we see is that it makes sense that the ELT revolution happened right after the Snowflake and the BigQuery and moving the SaaS to data warehouse, because then you realize with the challenge that you have. I have a SaaS platform. You know how many companies I met in the past few years? And they told me, but it's SaaS, and I'm not confident. Enterprise, like I'm not confident about the security. But once they are moving to Snowflake or BigQuery, and they see that I don't need to invest even one single hour on IT to add more computing engine, resource or whatever, it's freeing my life. Then the second mission, I want to look for SaaS ELT, but only SaaS. And this is what I'm thinking now.
I like it. So do you think, a question I have for you then, Itamar, off the back of what you're saying, and someone in the Mike Nash in the comments has asked a similar kind of question. Huge rises in data, and you're looking, and you kind of explained it there, or you did explain it, for the nuances of data and handling that data during extreme growth. But speed of access as well is quite important. How a Rivery, or how, not to point the finger at Rivery if you want to use Rivery, or how would you suggest to address these problems going forward? What is there that people that might be experiencing this? Because there's a lot of companies out there that are going through massive growth through the pandemic. Because as you said, you hit the nail on the head, Itamar. They've got digital channels where you can be a hub in Tel Aviv or in Paris, and all your business can happen in America. Like it's very possible. How do you see companies or people maybe in teams, data scientists, being addressed, and what have you seen with Rivery for processing all this huge rise in data, or what do they need to do to address all these challenges?
Yeah, so what we tried the easiest way for me is to take the Rivery as an example, because this is how we built our roadmap and the strategic product roadmap. And exactly we point to this needs, basically. So if our mission is to democratize and make the data accessible for the business users, whether you are analyst, data scientist, or just a manager that watch a dashboard. So if this is the North Star, if this is what we want to do, we thought really carefully we built okay, what are the foundation or the backbone that will basically bring you there? So we dealt with the first challenge was to ingest data, replicate data from hundreds of sources. How many sources there are out there? Thousands of thousands. All the companies that you see, they have an API, and eventually you want to connect to your internal data set. So you need an API, you need to get the data. So basically, the first mission is data replication, bring the data in, ingestion. So that was how we started the company, let's say the MVP. The second stage is the transformation. You want to run transformation as an analyst, only SQL. So use our framework to run your SQL. And again, Rivery will build the tables for you. You don't need to deal with data types and all of this. We are taking the metadata from your query and generates the tables that, for you in Snowflake or in BigQuery. This is why, by the way, we certified by these two players, because, and Databricks as well, because you want to make sure that we are building for them the tables and the structure and the schemas in the right way, or the right methodology. So you are analyst, you can take this data set that I just brought within 2 clicks, and literally 2 clicks. And then, I'm always happy to open a demo in 5 minutes. You see, wow, my God, it could take me like months in the past. So run the SQL automatically, or in programmatic way. We will build for you the tables and the infrastructure, and from that point you can put your Tableau dashboards or whatever the self-service tool that you want to run. Then you have the let's say the more technical audience, whether you are data engineers or whether you are data scientists, that you want to, you like to work with Python. There are many libraries out there that you want to leverage into your pipeline. So what we built, and we launched it actually 3 months ago, and crazy adoption, by the way, it's the Python engine. So in 1 minute you will build, you can spin off a data frame, is computing engine. Then you can run your Python, bring your Pythons, PySpark files and everything into the platform, and run it on top of computing engine or data frame, what we call, and you can run the machine learning algorithm. So once you know the ingestion, transformation, again, Python or SQL. So now the missing part is the orchestration. How do I orchestrate this one? I build the model, and now I want to run it every 5 minutes, every 1 minute, every day, or something like that. Then you have orchestration, dependencies between the components, and all of this. So those are the backbone, and we built a lot of infrastructure around those backbone, whether it's the API to connect to third-party tools, or deployment and integration with tools like Git and tools that you are using already now, or integration with Airflow. If you like the orchestration of Airflow, that's totally fine. I'm not against that one. You like to use DBT for transformation, use it. So
I like your approach, Itamar. Use what you want to use, and we'll work around it. I love
this is the package. This is the infrastructure, and now you pick whatever you want, basically, whatever works for you. But for every use case, you have your different. I'm not going to enforce everyone to work all the way with Rivery. That doesn't make any sense. The idea is to build your infrastructure, but I think I bring in opportunity to the table, an option to the table, that you can use 2 or 3 tools and not necessarily now 10 tools in the stack. Think about pipeline. Exactly. You have the ingestion tool that doing only the ingestion. Then you have an API that there's no native API. Then you are running and buying a tool for like preparing API, let's say running an API service. And then you will have the transformation SQL, and then you have the transformation Python, and then you have the data quality, data observability, then you have the deployment. It's crazy. And I see a lot of companies now, especially in the digital native, that every analyst became to be the data engineer because lack of engineering. they build kind of stack that rely on really 6, 7, 8 tools that eventually you have X time, X chance to fail in the process. You don't have a full monitoring for all of them. And speaking about security, everyone's speaking about security, but end of the day, you give the credential of Snowflake, which is your daemon basically, to the guy that's running Python on his working station. This is bridge when it comes to cybersecurity for security. So I'm bringing the platform. You can pick whatever you want and enjoy the experience of collaboration because everyone can work on the platform, all the types of users. But in the same time, if you have your preferred tool, again, especially open source, bring it in. I'm not competing with open source. I'm the opposite. I want to be enabler for them.
I love that. Itamar. And have you seen it? So maybe this is tell me if I'm framing this question correctly, but you've got some big names that are on your website that you work with and you partner with, that Rivery works with. Have you seen it from either at your time at Rivery or over the past 10 years, whichever you want to pick it, Itamar? Have you seen differences in terms of how you approach them or how you deal with different industries? Because I don't know, are some much more different, or like we said earlier, you're going to eventually hit the same problem? Is that the right thing, or does each industry hit the same problem?
I think it won't not necessarily will be the same challenges we see in the tech industry, because in general, enterprise are more conservative in the right way when thinking about to add a tool into their stack. So they will make a validation that this tool can integrate with the current stack.
They'll look at it a lot differently, won't they? Because they're much more tech, and they'll think, well, at that point. Whereas I guess, and this is my personal opinion, if you're looking at healthcare, or if you're looking at retail, or you're looking at manufacturing, they're going to be looking at it in a very less intrusive manner towards the tech. And this isn't to cut you in, I want to hear what you say, but they'll be looking at much more as, well, what's the outcome, right?
Exactly. This is when I'm saying conservative in the good way. They want to see the outcome. They don't really care, if the data engineers want to have skills in 5 or 10 tools, and you're buying this subscription and this subscription, and $10 a month, $100 a month, whatever, and eventually you found yourself with a lot of lack in talents and lack in capabilities to deploy, because you depends on many other aspects in the delivery. So I think that in the enterprise they are taking it more seriously in terms of integration with other tools, in terms of scale, in terms of training, like to scale. When you need to scale, you have 40 people in your data department or 100. You cannot compare it to one-man show. You have in a startup. So they thinking about how easy to train and the learning curve, and what can I get out of the platform, without thinking, for this feature I will take this product. So they are more thinking about the outcome. So I believe that this will be basically the next revolution. There are many arguments now in the industry about the MDS, if it's a modern data stack. What it is modern data stack? So there are people extremely that it's dead. Okay, the kind of buying features into one platform that not works. Doesn't make any sense. And I'm not there. I think that every company will build their modern data stack. The modern data stack, it's revolution. It's happening and it's growing. It's all SaaS, all self-service, all scale. But every company, based on its size, based on its mission, based on its domain in the business, will have a different adoption.
That's a great point.
By the way, about the business vertical, I strongly believe on this one. One thing that we built in Rivery is what we call Rivery Kits. If you will go to our website, you will see what pre-engineered solution that builds partners. So if you are matter expert in CPG, okay, food and beverages, let's say, and you have you built a blueprint on data model, including the machine learning, including the data visualization on top of it, you can spin off this one on top of Rivery infrastructure. So basically, exactly, within 1 minute, you can actually expose your solution abroad. So it's kind of marketplace for partners to bring their know-how and the ability to deploy it abroad. Yet we see it more as a community, but eventually we will monetize this one, and partners will be able to sell their solutions over Rivery, because every single dollar in revenue that we see is consumption. So what we do is kind of revenue share with them. You bring your solution, you have this kind of adoption, we get $1 for its
I love that.
credit, and we will share it with you.
That's a really good model, because I always say, Itamar, like, that's a really great model as well. And I want to touch on, just before I lose my point, I want to touch on your connectors as well. And I always love having, I can see that you've got the starter kits, which I think you mentioned then, because I always learn by doing. I wasn't very good at school. I always tell people I wasn't the best. I was rude to anyone, but I just didn't understand the idea. I was like, but now if I went back to school and someone stuck a VR headset on me or put me in a job, I learned very quickly, because I'm like, now I know how you do it. I can know the process. I can know the traction, which I think is very important. But what I was going to ask is, if you see it through the shift that we're having, so with connectors and everything, and with the starter kits, how does that play with Rivery? What role does that play with the connectors and having companies being able to use that starter kit?
Yeah, they can use it, and they will pay per use. We are not charging for the platform. We are not charging for anything aside the consumption. So if you're a company and you have a mission to get data from 60 sources, you will pay per source, not per source. You will pay per the volume that you brought out of these 60. So there are companies that will use one source, and then they will pay the same as other company that using 60 source. It all depends on the volume of the data, and if you think about that, this model is really great, because every type of company will pay basically what they are using, or what, I guess, size of the business. Because if you have, I don't know, $100 million campaigns in Facebook, we have such customers like running this one B2C. So you will pay, I guess, the volume of the data that will move into your system will be much higher than a small startup that, he has one page in one country in one language in Facebook. So that's it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I lost my train of thought, but I've got it back because you reminded me. But I was going to say, your model, I love it so much, Itamar, because this is a personal opinion. I see companies that do license-based work instead of usage-based work. Like, that's the reason I love Slack and Alpha Lake Ollie, and we love Slack as well, because I'm part of the team there. And I think usage-based is so much better. And I think some of these, especially in RPA, I think some of them are going to lose out because they're license-based. And I think, well, if I'm going to pick between license or usage, I'm always going to pick usage, because it will scale with the business. So like, exactly. I might keep my headcount at 10, but do double the amount of business or whatever, or have double the amount of processes that I need to automate. I don't, which is a negative for them, but it's also a pro. What do you think?
Exactly. And when you say usage based, and it's something that's growing now a lot, for us, the North Star is Snowflake or Google. This is what they did. This is really pure consumption based companies. You must be SaaS, because if you are not SaaS, and there are some cloud vendors that selling you like every minute on air or every hour. This is not consumption. I'm depends on your resources. I don't know how do I know that your machine is running well? When it's 1 hour, why not 10 minutes for this mission? Okay, so this is when you are focusing on the amount of data or the volume, something really concrete, that there is correlation between what you transferred to our cost and your cost. This is basically what we try to achieve here. And in the beginning we were like 80% on this one, and now we are going over and over, like to be really tight that every single dollar that we get in revenue, that we count as an ARR, if you want to call it like this, we count it from true consumption. And yeah, so it worked pretty well for Snowflake. We want to see the same success in Rivery. And
Snowflake are killing it, man. I have a few people that work there and like what they're building. Like I 100% agree for why they're the North Star. But maybe I want to look at this as well. As I want to look I really respect your time, Itamar. But I want to look at quickly about the training. But before that final question, have you seen how companies, and you touched on it a bit earlier, Itamar, but maybe delve a bit deeper to how they're handling their data processes? Because a lot of companies are moving from legacy systems to new systems. And I always think you might be a legacy company or a big company, but there are a lot of companies coming out there, a lot of young founders thinking, I can take you over because I'm, just as you're saying, going to use 2 tools instead of your 100 tools. I don't know if that's the actual answer, but you get what I mean. And I think, are you seeing how companies are making that shift and just delving a bit deeper to maybe what they're trying to do, what they're doing to get out of that legacy?
When you are replacing Informatica or talent, trust me, you need to work with the BI team in the customer side, that not always in one location, and help them to change the mindset, to change the mindset of that. You don't really need to build the tables. You don't really need to control the capacity or the resources. You don't. It's actually, you need to focus on the logic and what you want to bring to your business. And so we definitely see this move, and we are working with them. So it's sometimes it's not easy because there will. When we are replacing it, hey, in Informatica you have the button to do this cast? I'm thinking, no, you will have it in the SQL, and that's it. It's this is the new modern platform. You don't need for every casting to have a picture. Okay, so people sometimes need to take. But they're really happy to do this one, and I think DBT is a good example how it's the quick adoption for this one. And nothing there is like, the UI of the legacy players like Informatica or Talent, and legacy players even like Matillion. So you see that the new tools focusing on how to do things right and fast, but also not to lock you. So your native SQL, if you will run our SQL engine, you will see that you will pick what is the data lake or the data warehouse that you're running on, Databricks or Snowflake or Google, because we don't want the customers to rely on us. If you build a query that's running in analytics function that Snowflake launch, we want you to have it right away. You don't need to wait for our version to support that one. To freeing you, to freeing your work is basically in everything, in every single feature. So definitely we see that we need to guide the audience. For that purpose, we did 2 aspects. We did two steps to make their life easier. So one is the documentation. If you go to our website, we have community, we have documentation for every single feature in the platform. Like the platform is the feature was finished and before launch, then you have the documentation. So documentation for everything, because it's a self-service. And in the same mission of the self-service, we want them to start working with the product right away. So you can go now, no credit card. After 10 minutes, you have an account in Rivery, connect data from, like, within 2 clicks, get data from 1 or 2 or 3 other platforms. And that's it. You have the data. So in 2 minutes, you see the ROI. And now you have 2 weeks free of charge to use it and see what you like, what you dislike. Reach out to open a ticket. How do I do that? Or how do I do this and something like that? And we will send them to the community or documentation. And eventually, only after 2 weeks, you can put your credit card and go with a pay-as-you-go, or speaking with sales for, if you want to commit to bigger volume of consumption, but getting an a better deal for price per unit. And sometimes companies says to us, you know what? We had amazing successful POC trial in the trial. We want to sign to pay-as-you-go to run another month or two to see the volume and everything, and then moving to annual. I'm totally fine. I'm telling to myself, I don't care how they are landing, because we are charging based on consumption. If we are good, the consumption will be high. That's it. Very simple. It's our mission. It's not their mission. We just need to be there and make sure that we are really state of art when it comes to the experience of working with a product.
Yeah, and you got something everyone wants today, which I'll also just add in, which is customizability. I always say customization. So making sure that they have it on their terms, which is such a big important point. If they want to go one side, and the thing I like what you're saying, Itamar, is it looks very, from your kind of thinking and mindset that you're telling to your team or whatever, it's very value driven. It's thinking, well, if we're rubbish, they're not going to use us. If we're great and that's what we think we are and we're exceptional, they're going to keep using it. So it's let them run it on their terms and let's just learn from them and see how we can add that benefit. So I think that's a brilliant way.
You really touched the point. Like 2 months ago, I think it was 2 months or 7 weeks, we changed the way that we are charging the CDC. Before that it was frequency. So we thought that it's also value. If you're running every minute, you need to pay more if you're on the. And what we built in the new pricing is we launched, and this is the revolution on true consumption. We told them, you know what? You want to run every 5 minutes, every hour, every 2 hours, whatever the business needs, you won't pay for that one. So for some cases, even our current account, they out of the sudden saw the bill drop in 80 and 90%.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to do in this moment is that I'm seeing strategically. This is what they need to do when they need to think about the how much Rivery will cost them in about 2 years. Okay, I know that I will generate 2 petabytes of data, 10 terabytes of data a month. This is what I need to know. You don't need to think, okay, for this model, I need to run every minute. For this model, I need to run every hour. For the other model, I will run every month just to save money. And what we saw actually is the fact that really supported our assumption. Companies that we worked with, they decreased for 1 week or 2, but when we launched it, they understood that it can actually scale more. So if before that they were really picky on every single table, they run hourly, now they're running every minute or something like that. So you make the based on your pricing model, you make them make it accessible to everyone, and now companies actually growing. So overall, we didn't see a decrease, maybe a tiny decrease, but even though the pricing decreased in 90% overall, if you take the previous model.
Oh, I love it, man. Such a good model to be running off, and such a good value add as well. If you're cutting, like you said, 70-80%, that's insane. Like anyone.
You must believe in yourself. You must believe in your team. You must believe in your product and be confident to do those moves. I can assure you, it's not easy, especially when the board want to see the hyper in the ARR and. But this is what I just tomorrow I have a board, so I built a slide only about this change that we made 2 months ago, and I showing them like how the usage is growing, the executions are much growing. But there is a slight decrease in the revenue from this specific use case. So if you believe in the product like I am, or like my team and my co-founders, you will know that, okay, in about a month or 2, it will also the numbers, the pure dollars will be aligned with this one. And this is what you want to do, to make sure that your customers trust you on the way you charge them and to be fully transparent with them.
I think that's the best point. I think that's a great point to leave it on as well, Itamar, to say, as long as you're value driven and the way that you trust, and if you're looking at that the way you're doing with Rivery, it's a brilliant way. But I've learned a lot today, man. It's been a lot of fun having you on, and Itamar, I can't wait to do this again. Hopefully by this point we'll have the in-person studio in London. And you'll have to swing by and we can chat at arm's length about all these topics, because I feel like I've got a lot more to learn from you. But I really do appreciate your time, and
appreciate it a lot. Thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure. to meet you and your community. Thank you.
Looking forward to it. And to everyone who joined us, really appreciate it. As always, let us know who you want us to have on. People such as Itamar to explain these topics where I get to learn and you get to learn. And we'll see you on the next one coming in the next couple of days. Itamar, thank you again, sir.
Thank you so much.